We are out around Miners Loop again today. Got a couple things we got to look at, do some conditions updating, some off-trail issues that have been plaguing central Colorado, all around Taylor Park, and people driving around snow. You know, it's not uncommon, unfortunately, because people do that a lot, but this year with the elevated snowpack and some of the trails opening later, it's been a big issue. So we're going to try and hit multiple passes today, maybe 4 of them if everything goes right. We're on Hancock right now, above tree line. There's still a slight bit of water running down the road. No snow or issues like that. Obviously this has been open since right around when we got Tin Cup open. Still pretty rocky. The whole pass was converted to full-size motorized trail with the last decision. The Gunnison side has been that way for a while, and now the Salida side is. So it is, you know, more of a difficult road. It's not an easy drive, and we'll check things up here at the summit, and then where we continue to have problems on the other side. So we're on top of Hancock. Things look pretty good. I'm gonna head over there to Tomichi. Not too bad on the Tundra up here. There's a couple tracks where people have kind of making wide turns and stuff like that. But just remember, when you're in places like this, you want to stop, you want to take a picture of the sign. It's plenty wide up here for multiple vehicles. Just try and always stay off the grass, stay off the Tundra, stay on the dirt, stay on the trail. As much as possible. There's plenty of wide places to pass other vehicles, so we really don't need to be driving on the Tundra for any reason. So now we're coming down to some of the worst parts that we have on Hancock, and you can see my guys clear down there and the fences that we built to try and keep people on the trail, because this is where the last big snowfield hangs, and this is just from this year. And you can see what happens when somebody starts to drive around. They went clear up there over by the Talus Rock and then back up here to the road, and it doesn't take much, and then people start following them once there's tracks on the ground, and we can get a lot of damage in a short period of time that's going to take a long time to heal. So for the last several years, these are the barriers that we've continually worked on. They really get beat over the winter from the huge snowfield that sits in here to try and keep people out of the willows and the little bit of marshy wetland down in there, that you just need to stay on the road. And if the road and the pass isn't fully passable yet, then you need to turn around or bust your shovel out and try and shovel things out. It's certainly not acceptable to go off trail and around snowfields anywhere, especially on Hancock. So here you can see, look how worn that is in. You know, just 2 trucks started this year, and they went down there, and then they went up and around the willows and through the rocks, and then up to that point where we just came down. Now the snowfield sits here in the road. It starts up there on the hill and kind of covers all the way over the road and then down into where those barriers we have, and those actually look fully intact now this year on this end. So people weren't driving there, but then they come clear down here and they drive off trail and they go up and around. And then, you know, we got the info of these 2 pickups. I'll show you the far shots so you can't see the close-up shots, but we sent this to the Forest Service. We sent this to law enforcement officers over there for referral for tickets, because, you know, we had photo evidence, and one of them actually got stuck in the snow on the Salida side going downhill of Hancock over there. But this is why we can't be doing this, because this is going to take a long time for this to heal, and then people are just going to come up here next year and think that's an established road and drive around the edge again. So we're headed over to Tomichi now. The vantage point from Hancock, looking over there to Brittle Silver Basin, Brittle Silver Mine, and then up there to the summit, is pretty unique. The way that Tomichi just crosses that talus slope and heads up the valley, it's the one trail in central Colorado that kind of reminds me of the San Juans. Probably certainly one of our favorite areas to go do work on. All right, so we just passed the intersection over here to Tomichi, turned up the Tomichi side, just going up the bottom around the willows and the wetland area before the mine up here, and then we're gonna head up. We'll go see what the landslide area looks like. We first cleared that and reopened the pass in 2019. It had been closed for several years before we shoveled that out by hand. About 30 volunteers that day. Took us most of the day. We got it wide enough for full-size vehicles to pass, and then every year since, we've been coming up and re-shoveling it out from sloughing over the winter, and making sure it was wide enough for full-size vehicles. And if you've seen our videos before, you already know that Tomichi's been open, and there's been a lot of traffic on it, and it doesn't look like we need to do any work, but we're going to take some of these wide vehicles up through there, full-width axles, you know, 10-inch wheels, 3.5-inch backspace, so pretty wide. About the widest vehicle that you would ever see up here, and just make sure it's good to go for the whole season. So we did make it to the top of Tomichi, second pass. You know, you can see from the footage there that full width axles and stuff just fine. That landslide's holding up really well. We didn't have to do any work on it this year, so it's really coming back to kind of a regular road bed. First year we shoveled it out, it's super soft. That hump covered the original road down below, so that's, you know, easily 20 feet of dirt that slid down over top of the road that we built the road back up and over the top of that. So sometimes people think that there's a new slide that has slid if you just look at it from Hancock's side and don't know that the road goes up and over that landslide that was there. But yeah, things look good. We're glad Tomichi's been open every year since 2019 now. A lot of volunteer work. Thanks to everybody that's come over and helped us throughout the years. And pass number 2 down today. So we're down off of the Tomichi Hancock initial part of those 2 passes there, past where the Alpine Tunnel makes the big curve at Sherrod Loop. It's still closed up there. They are cutting new blocks this year to be able to fix the damaged palisade. Last year we were up there, we did rock scaling. That was the first part of the project, scaling all the cliffs up there for loose rocks. This year they're recutting new stones, and then next year they're gonna rebuild the big palisade and fix the road to then eventually be open to public use. Again, it'll be nice to be able to drive all the way back up there. We'll head over to Napoleon next.
Everything just turned downhill. Yeah, so
up here on Napoleon, you know, we'd heard about a machine rolling off the side on the upper road up there. This is looking up the lower road. This is the one that's usually snowed in for quite some time. Some people have gone down it. We were able to shovel out that upper road, take full sizes down it, so it's good to go now. And it's a good thing because it's like a super highway up here now. And this is the problem, like early on in the season, this is what happens. Like, look at these tracks. These guys are climbing up that hill, and then there's tracks here that go clear down around over onto this side, and there's no open riding areas up here. It is not open. You have to stay on the trail. And early season, that's really what we see is people come from out of state. They've scheduled their vacations. They're coming out here. Even people from Colorado, unfortunately, too. It's not just out-of-staters that are planning to go camping in the mountains. They're going to run some trails. They're going to do some passes. And then they get out here and they make bad decisions. They don't stop when there's snow covering the road. They just drive off the trail around it. You know, we plugged to the beginning and the exit of that bypass up here around the upper road where there's a snowbank, and that's just unacceptable. You cannot do that. It is not up to the terrain to conform to what you want to do. The environment, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when you scheduled your vacation. It doesn't matter when you scheduled your camping trip, or that you drug all your stuff out here and you want to ride. It is up to you to model your behavior and your decisions after the environment. And so we just shoveled out this upper road. We took 4 full-size vehicles through it. It's fully passable. We put U-channels in on the bypass and signs, so hopefully people quit going around it. But sometimes what happens, if people make tracks, then others just keep following them. And that's what we were dealing with over there on Hancock early on in the season. There's people on Hancock that were driving around that last snowdrift. Italian Creek is a disaster this year because people have been driving up there around all the snowdrifts. You know, I've seen pictures, unfortunately, from Mile High over there on Wheeler Lake, you know, one of their adopted trails. The patrol over there, we helped them put a winch anchor in a couple years ago, and they did a bunch of post and cable to keep people from driving around the obstacles, and those are all broken down. There's people driving all over. We cannot continue to do that. If users continue to do that, then that's where you're going to find gates at the bottom of every single trail that will not be open until they're fully passable. And we don't want that. I mean, even if a pass isn't all the way open, you could drive up to the summit and then back. It gives you an option. You just have to make good decisions. We cannot continue to tear up the tundra, you know, come out here on a whim, try and shovel out roads so that people stay on the road, punch in signs all the time. We got to figure it out. So we'll head down the rest of Napoleon, down into Tin Cup. We'll go over Tin Cup Pass. We'll give you an update on Mirror Lake. The water level has fallen substantially. It's really low. So it's not a big deal, but just to let everybody know where that's at. But yeah, see, this is how simple, you know, staying on the trail and opening trails like what we just did. There were 6 UTVs that just passed us. They happen to be running on the same radio channel that we're running on. And the lead one drives up to that snowdrift and says, "Oh yeah, it's good, just stay on the road, follow me." And they all stayed right on the road and drove all the way the rest of the way. So, you know, anything can happen, but we're probably in a good situation now over here on Napoleon that the upper road is open. It's a little bit tippy, I ain't gonna lie. It's off camber in several spots, but at least it's open. At least people can stay on the trail. And we're not talking camping, we're not talking passing other vehicles. But the one thing you can do to help us keep trails open is to stay on the trail. Do not drive on the grass, do not drive on Alpine Tundra. So we're coming up on Mirror Lake right up here. Check the water level, see how far it's gone down in the last 2 weeks since we ended up opening Tin Cup, and then we'll head up the pass for our 4th pass of the day. It is way lower. I mean, it's probably not even half as deep as it's probably not even half as deep as it was 2 weeks ago when we were out here. So yeah, we'll see if we can get some camera footage on the tires and see where we're at. So there you go, that's nothing. The lake is maybe half as inches full, maybe 20 inches. I'd be shocked if we were even getting the hubs wet on this Jeep. The only two places that have water right there towards the downhill side, towards the Mirror Lake campground, where you go in and out of the lake, and then just on the big corner on the upper end of the lake. That's all. Everything else is pretty much dry. And just some history on this. I mean, there's been people that don't understand how the road works around Mirror Lake. So the road goes right around the edge of the lake, and nearly every year, unless there's really low moisture years, that lake starts to get deeper and it'll cover the road. And that's been happening for 4 decades of my lifetime, and even before that. One of my first memories as a kid Jeeping was in my dad's CJ5 Jeep, and I remember being mesmerized looking out the door, thinking it was going to come in the door, the water level of Mirror Lake. And, you know, the delineator posts on the big corner put in by land manager to make sure that in some cases, if you didn't know where the road was, you thought you just went in one side and out the other, and it was a straight line in between, and you didn't follow the bank there, and then vehicles would get into trouble and get out into deep water. So that is, it's just a natural part of how this environment works up here, and where the road goes, and how we interact with water. Now, you certainly don't want to cause undue issues or unnecessary issues by speeding through there, going as fast as you can, really stirring up the dirt, crashing water all over your machine or your vehicle or all over the place. That's never helpful at all. But, you know, that's just the way that this road works with the environment that's up here, and that's part of the EMVA map. And there's no seasonal closures, there's no water depth closures. It's just as vehicles can make that through that lake, then people continue to pass through there. So obviously we don't want to sink a vehicle in there. That would be bad news if we sunk a vehicle in there, but that's how the road works over here. So here we are, Tin Cup Pass Summit, 4th pass of the day. Go down and see how the snowfield looks after 2 weeks. So there you go, barely any snow left in those snowfields. The lake is, you know, super low based on where it was earlier this year. And just like we talked a lot today, just remember, always stay on the trail. You can pass people, make sure you find a good place to pass people. If there's existing dispersed camping available, find a dispersed campsite. But if you are driving the road and you are trying to go over these mountain passes, stay on the trail.